Hello, welcome to another video of Code Snippet. In this video, we are going to look into another important aspect of Spring Boot, that is Spring Boot scheduling. So inside Spring Boot, you can schedule any task very easily by using Spring scheduling. So in this video, we are going to learn many annotations. So this is going to be a fun video. So sit back, relax and enjoy the show. Right, so let's quickly jump into the agenda of this particular video. So there we go. So Spring Boot scheduling, right? Or few people also call it as Crons, right? So first we will understand what exactly is scheduling and why do we need it, right? After that we will enable scheduling inside our Spring Boot project. After that we will see basic scheduling. We will see what is fixed rate, what is fixed delay, and what is initial delays. After that we will jump into what are Cron expressions, right? Very interesting. So that is basically the agenda. Now let's get started and let's see what exactly is scheduling, right? So scheduling in Spring Boot allows you to automate tasks at specific intervals or times, right? For example, consider a scenario, right? That you want to process certain orders, right? That users are placing some amount of orders on your e-commerce platform, let's say, and you want to process them every 5 minutes. How you are going to do it? There could be one person who is hitting your API every 5 minutes, right? Well, that is a manual approach and may not be the right approach for this use case, right? So we need to automate that somehow, right? That is when scheduling comes into picture. So automatically process pending orders every 5 minutes, right? That is something, this implementation we are going to look into this video, right? After that, another example would be sending email notifications, right? Send promotional emails daily at midnight. Now, how you can send emails to 1000 people at midnight, right? You cannot keep a resource for that. You cannot have a manual approach, right? In that case, again, the scheduling comes into picture. So you can again do that. You can also do data cleanup after certain amount of time, like every Sunday at 2 AM, let's say at night. You can fetch stock updates, let's say at periodic interval. You can also have system health check every minute, right? So these are basically the simple use cases of Spring Boot scheduling, right? And why do we need scheduling? As we have discussed, without scheduling, repetitive tasks must be triggered manually, right? But we cannot do that, right? There are so many factors which will restrict us in order to do this, right? This is not really a feasible approach, right? That is basically reason why we need scheduling, and we can make use of that to perform automated tasks at periodic intervals, right? Now let's directly jump into the code that we have for this particular video. So this is basically a order processing service. Let's say an e-commerce website which we have created in order to process your orders, right? Now what do we have over here? Let's just have a quick walkthrough. So here I have one order controller where I have a couple of endpoints. First is to create order and second is to get the order, right? Get all orders basically. After that we have a DTO. DTO is basically a simple POJO which contains customer email along with its getters and setters. After that we have an entity which is basically order entity in order to store data inside our database, right? And this guy have ID, customer email, status and created at fields, right? And these two fields we are going to generate dynamically by using pre-persist. That means before persisting, we will add these details into this entity and populate. From user, we will only get this order request, that is customer email, that is sufficient for us, right? After that, we have this repository, order repository, which is making use of JPA repository. And that's pretty much it over here. And we have a simple service, which is basically order service in order to create and get all the orders, right? Very simple project over here, right? Now in this project, we are going to build the functionality related to scheduling, right? So that is basically our application. And if you go to pom.xml over here, then you will see that we are making use of H2 database, right? Again, in-memory database. So that is basically the quick overview of our project over here. Now in this project, we are going to get started and enable scheduling, right? So if we go back over here, so we will enable scheduling inside Spring Boot. Now how to enable scheduling, right? How to enable scheduling inside your Spring Boot project. So what you need to do, you need to go to your configuration class and add @enable scheduling annotation, right? That is basically the annotation that we need over here. Now what this annotation will do, this will do all the configuration related to scheduling inside this particular project, right? So by using this, you can enable scheduling, right? So this annotation you will need to add on your configuration class, right? So the Spring Boot application annotation makes our class, our main class as configuration class. So if you go over here, you will see that we have configuration annotation over here, right? So you need to add this along with your class, which is annotated with configuration annotation, right? First step basically. That is the minimal thing that you need in order to enable scheduling inside your application, right? Now let's make use of scheduling over here. Let's see how we can make use of that. Now what I will do over here, let's create a new package, let's say, and let's add schedulers over here. So all the scheduler related classes we will add over here. And now let's add a order scheduler. Now what we want over here is, let's say we are creating certain orders, right? We are creating certain orders from here. Now those orders will be created as pending orders since they are new orders. Now let's say every 5 minutes I want to check all the orders from our database and process those orders, right? How we are going to do that? By using scheduling. That is something which we are going to achieve now over here, right? So first what we need over here, we need to make this guy as a service so that it's converted to bean. Now what we will do, we will just inject order repository over here, order repository, right? And create an object of order repository so that we can get the data from order repository. And what I will do, I will just auto wire this, right? After that, what I will do, I'll just add a method. So here I have added this simple function, that is process pending orders, right? So what this function is doing, this is fetching all the orders for which the status is pending, right? And what it is doing for all the orders, it is setting status to completed and saving order back inside our database and just printing this, right? So before execution also, we'll just add a simple statement so that we are aware that this guy is triggered, right? So what we can do over here is, let's say processing orders, right? Now who is going to trigger this, right? Who is going to call this method? We are not going to call. Who is going to call? Our scheduler is going to call. So in order to schedule this particular method, this particular task, we can make use of @scheduled annotation, @scheduled, right? And this annotation takes an argument, right? What argument it takes? If you go inside it, you will see that it supports many arguments, right? So it can have cron, it can have zone, it can have fixed rate, fixed delay, initial delay, and the string version of it as well, right? Now let's see all of them one by one. So let's make use of fixed rate first, right? What I will do, I will go inside this function and I will say fixed rate. I will set the value to, let's say 10 seconds, or let's say 5 seconds, right? So that we see a frequent processing. We don't have that much amount of time over here, right? So now we have started processing, right? Now what we can do, let's run this application, right? So let it come up. So our application is started. Now as you can see, this guy already started processing orders every 5 seconds, right? Do you see these logs over here? So this function is already started doing its job periodically, but it's not able to find any order to process since we did not add any order. So what we can do over here, let's go back over here and let me bring up my Postman real quick and let's try to create order. This is basically the API that we have created, order/create. And if I send this now, then the order will be created, right? Now this order is pending, right? Now let's go back over here. And what do we have over here now? Now do you see this? Processed pending order 1, right? So probably I'll modify the message a bit so that we have a clear idea of which object is being modified. We will just print the email ID of that particular customer for which the order is being processed, right? So let me just rerun this code quickly and let's try to do this again, right? Now let's go back over here and let's try to add this again. Now let's see what happens. Now if you can see, processing order of this particular email and processed pending orders 1, right? And again it got processed. Now it is not processing anymore since there are no pending orders, right? Now we also have a get API, right? So we have /all, which is a get call. So let's see what we are getting. So if you see over here, so if you can see, the status of this particular email is completed, right? So that is basically how it is running, right? It is basically how you can easily do scheduling inside Spring Boot, right? This is basically the basic scheduling that we have over here, right? Now here in the scheduled annotation, we have seen what is fixed rate, right? That is, we are running this function every 5 seconds, right? Now let's say the scenario where we have a lot of orders to process and this guy over here is running for 10 seconds, this function, let's say, but within the execution of this particular function, another invocation will be started at 5th second, right? Because this guy will not wait for this method to be completed, right? This guy will trigger another method, which may create a problem and which may overlap your method execution, right? That is basically the problem with fixed rate. So we don't want to do that. Let's say if you don't want to overlap your method executions on top of each other, then you can make use of fixed delay, right? So what is fixed delay? After the execution of last method, it will wait for 5 seconds and then start another execution, right? So let's try to understand this difference clearly. So if we go back over here in the canvas, so this is basically fixed rate for us, right? So in the interval of this 5 seconds, it will start a new method execution. But what if this method runs for this much amount of, then these two method executions are overlapping, right? So this is basically the problem, right, that we want to address, right, with fixed delay. In case if you're fine with this and if you know that this is not going to overlap, then you can use it, right? No problem. Or if you have a very big rate, like 1 hour or 2 hour and execution is taking only 5 seconds, then it's not a problem, right? But when it comes to fixed delay, let's say first method execution, it starts, right? Let's say it is doing first method execution, right? So it will immediately trigger your first execution. And after that, it will wait for 5 seconds and execute your next method. So in this case, your method execution will never be overlapped, right? Let's say fixed delay is 5 seconds, then you are running this method every 5 seconds. But after the execution of this method, you are waiting for 5 seconds and running this. So the wait between two executions will always be 5 seconds in this case. So in this case, no overlapping will be there, right? Now let's go back over here and let's try to give fixed delay now in this case. Let's say 5 milliseconds. Now if we run this, let's see what happens. Now immediately it started here its first invocation and it will start next invocation after 5 seconds and it will keep on doing that, right? And the overlap will not be there, right? Now if I go back and try to add this particular guy, then again it will process it and wait for 5 seconds and again do that particular method invocation. That is basically the difference between fixed delay and fixed rate, right? Now another important point over here is, so if we go back over here, we have initial delay, right? So let's say when you bring up your application, you want to wait for certain amount of time before starting this processing job. So in order to do that, we can make use of initial delay and add some value. So let's say wait for 10 seconds first. So now if I run this code, now let's see what happens. So as you can see over here, it will wait for 10 seconds, right? It is waiting now. And after 10 seconds, it will start its first processing. There we go. So after 10 seconds, it started first processing. It started its first processing. And after each 5 seconds, it will now run each processing. Again, if you add something from here, it will process it at the next invocation of the method. There we go, right? So that is basically initial delay, right? So you can wait for some amount of time. If you need to wait after you bring up your application, you can make use of initial delays, right? So that is basically initial delay, and that is basically fixed rate and fixed delay. So all these we have seen over here, right? Now the important part comes into picture is Cron expressions, right? Now by using Cron expressions, you can have more precise scheduling. So by using this fixed rate and fixed delay, you can schedule within certain amount of time, right? So every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, right? Like that we can do, but you cannot do precisely on certain date, on certain time of the day, on certain day of a week, right? So that is something which we can do by using Cron expressions. Now the syntax of that is very easy, right? You just add a cron and you just add a value of that cron over here. Very, very easy. But you need to understand the syntax of cron, right? So let's just cover it quickly. Now here in the cron expression, you pass certain string, and that string basically has 6 elements like this. Now what is the significance of these 6 stars? Every star signifies something. Now let's go back to this diagram and let's see what each star is telling us, right? So first star over here signifies the second, right? So you can give values from 0 to 59, right? If you give 15 as a value, it will run at 15th second, right? After that you have minute, which can have value from 0 to 59 again. After that you have hour, so you can give the hour over here. So if you give 12 over here, then at every 12 p.m. it will run the job. Then we have days of months, right? 1 to 31st. Then you have month, and after that you have days of week as well. Days of week as in 0 to 7, right? So that is basically how you can give. Now you can have multiple combinations over here. So, and along with these, you also have some special characters inside your Cron expression. So this is basically the special character. Star means everything, right? So if you have all stars over here, that means it will run every second, right? We also have comma, that means you can specify multiple value for each star. For example, we have 0, 15, 30, 45 in the first chunk. That means in the second, we have 4 values over here. That means this particular cron job will run at 0th second, 15th second, 30th second, and 45th second of the minute, right? So dash basically specifies range. This particular slash will specify increment. That means this particular statement will run every 5 seconds. After that, we have question mark, we have L, we have W, we have hash, right? So all of these characters have its own significance, right? So according to your use case, you need to prepare your cron expression, right? Now there are many combinations over here, right? You don't need to remember all these characters and all these expressions, right? Let me tell you the easiest way. Just go to Google, search cron expression generator, and just go to some random cron maker, and here you can generate your cron. For example, let's say I want to run hourly, right? Hourly, I want to run every 2 hours. I can just say generate, and it will generate a cron for me. So I can just copy and I can just put it over there. If you want it daily, just select that you want to run it every day, and it should start at, let's say, 12. You can click on generate, and this guy will generate the expression for you. If you want weekly, just say the day, just select the number of weeks and say generate. Now this guy will create expression for you again. You want it monthly, just select all your details and click on generate. This guy will again generate it for you, right? So you can just copy it from here and paste it over there, and you will be able to create it just fine, right? You can just use any cron maker. Now here in this case, we will just keep same expression over here, and what we will do, we'll just start our application. So this expression will trigger our process each second. If you see over here, it is triggering our process each second, right? Because this cron expression will do so, right? Now we don't have time to test all these, right? So you can have your own combination, add it inside scheduled annotation, and you will be fine, right? Right, so now we have seen all this, but we are left with an important topic, that is dynamic scheduling, right? So dynamic scheduling is a very important topic, and it has its own significance, right? Why we need dynamic scheduling, right? What we can do, we can cover dynamic scheduling and few other important concepts as a part 2 of this particular video. So a lot more fun stuff is coming inside next video as well. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe to Code Snippet right now. So that's pretty much it for this particular video. We have seen what exactly is scheduling and why we need scheduling. After that, we have made use of @enable scheduling annotation to enable scheduling inside Spring Boot. After that, we have seen basic scheduling, fixed rate, fixed delay, and initial delay we have understood. We have also understood the difference between these two, and we have also seen what exactly are cron expressions, right? And dynamic scheduling we will see in the next video, right? So if you like the video, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to Code Snippet. Share this video with your friends so that they also have idea about Spring Boot scheduling. That's it for this video. See you in the next video.